The corridors of the imperial palace on Lycerian Prime were vast, cold, and spotless, lit by the soft hum of quantum-luminescent panels. Every surface gleamed as though polished by invisible hands. Guards in obsidian armor patrolled in perfect unison, their visors reflecting the cold, white light. And there I was, Commander Cale Arden, brought before the Queen herself for what the Empire considered a crime of the highest order, defiance. I had refused to sign the Concordat Treaty with the Helix Syndicate, a move that the Imperial Council saw as both foolish and rebellious. The Council had whispered about me like a storm waiting to break. Now, they had delivered me to the palace, a caged wolf in the heart of the Empire, and for the first time, I would meet the one who ruled all, Queen Seraphine. The throne room was vast, almost impossibly so. It stretched into the ceiling, which shimmered like the night sky, dotted with artificial stars. Seraphine sat atop her throne, an elegant silhouette framed by flowing golden banners and the faint hum of hovering drones. Her eyes were like polished emeralds, piercing and unyielding. Yet, when she spoke, her voice carried warmth, almost amusement, rather than judgment. "Commander Arden," she said, leaning forward, her long fingers brushing a crystal orb that floated beside her throne. "You've caused quite a stir in my empire. Refusing a treaty isn't just defiance, it's audacity. And yet," she tilted her head, and a wry smile curved her lips. "There's something almost intriguing about your audacity." I straightened, trying to summon the courage of a soldier, but something in her gaze unsettled me. Not fear, but something else entirely. Curiosity? Delight? "I stand by my actions, Your Majesty," I said firmly. "The Helix Syndicate is corrupt. Any alliance would weaken the Empire." Seraphine rose from her throne, her silk gown flowing like liquid gold. She walked down the stairs that led to the marble floor with a grace that made every soldier in the room seem clumsy in comparison. When she stopped a few feet from me, I realized she was barely taller than I was, yet her presence was colossal. "And yet," she murmured, leaning closer, "most would bow to the council, without question. You did not." She circled me slowly, her eyes tracing the contours of my uniform. "Tell me, Commander, do you always act with such recklessness?" "I act in the Empire's best interest," I replied, my voice steady despite the sudden heat rising to my cheeks. Her laugh was soft, almost musical, and it echoed through the chamber. "Oh, Cale," she said, using my first name without permission, which both shocked and disarmed me. "You speak of duty, and yet your eyes betray your defiance. I wonder, do you enjoy this? Defying me?" I didn't answer at first. My training told me not to falter, but something about her proximity, the way her gaze seemed to know my thoughts, made my mind scramble. I began, but she interrupted with a tilt of her head and a teasing smile. "Don't bother," she said. "I already know." For a long moment, the room seemed to shrink, and it was just the two of us, the cold marble replaced by a tension that was almost electric. I realized, with a disconcerting clarity, that I was not only being judged but also observed, like a puzzle she wanted to solve. Finally, she straightened and stepped back, clasping her hands in front of her. "So, you came here expecting judgment, perhaps punishment. But I wonder if I might turn this trial into something more entertaining." I narrowed my eyes. "Entertaining?" Her lips curved into a mischievous grin. "Yes. Imagine this. Instead of a formal tribunal, instead of threats and decrees, we test your defiance in a way that is far more interesting." Before I could protest, she snapped her fingers, and the room transformed. Walls of light rose from the floor, projecting an intricate simulation of the Empire's most dangerous battlefield. Holographic soldiers, drones, and creatures of alien origin filled the space, all ready to engage. The Queen's hand hovered over the controls, and her emerald eyes sparkled. "You will fight," she said softly, "not to prove loyalty, but to prove ingenuity and courage. If you survive, perhaps I will find your audacity charming." I swallowed, realizing that surviving this would not only be a test of skill but of nerve and, strangely, of chemistry. The battle began. Holographic enemies struck with deadly precision, and I moved instinctively, dodging, striking, and adapting. My training as a commander served me well, but the Queen's simulation was relentless, unpredictable. Every time I countered one attack, another came from an unexpected angle. Yet through the chaos, I felt her presence. She didn't just watch. She observed with keen interest, occasionally leaning into the simulation to adjust a scenario, forcing me to adapt on the fly. It was maddening, exhilarating, and oddly thrilling. Then came a moment that changed everything. A massive holographic drone, too fast to defeat conventionally, lunged at me. I barely managed to leap aside, landing hard on the floor. Before I could recover, a shimmering barrier formed around me, and Seraphine's voice rang out, teasingly close. "Careful, Kale. You might injure yourself. Or perhaps you enjoy the thrill?" I looked up and saw her hovering above the battlefield, eyes locked on mine. In that instant, the lines between challenge and flirtation blurred. My pulse raced, not just from exertion, but from the awareness that she had turned this trial, my defiance, into a game that felt dangerously intimate. I rose, gathering my strength and focus. The final wave of drones attacked, faster, smarter, more relentless. But I remembered every maneuver I had ever trained for, every tactical decision I had ever made. And just as a massive drone lunged at my chest, I sidestepped, flipped, and sent a concentrated pulse of energy that disintegrated it. The simulation ended abruptly. The battlefield dissolved into the pristine marble of the throne room. Silence filled the space, except for the Queen's soft laughter. "Well," she said, descending the final steps toward me, "I must admit, you are more entertaining than I expected. And your defiance, exquisite." I breathed heavily, my body exhausted but my mind racing. "Your Majesty, what does this mean? Am I pardoned?" She leaned close, her face inches from mine. Her breath was faintly scented with exotic flowers from the palace gardens. "Pardoned," she murmured, her lips curving in that teasing grin again. "Oh, Kale, I hardly think of it as pardon. I think of it as the beginning." Her fingers brushed my uniform, light as a whisper. "You have proven that you are clever, daring, and unafraid to stand against the Empire. Those are qualities I admire. Perhaps I admire them too much." I swallowed, unable to speak, and for a moment, all the formalities of rank and duty vanished. It was just the two of us, in a moment suspended between power, defiance, and something dangerously close to desire. "You should know," she continued, straightening with a playful tilt of her head, "I could have had you executed for your insolence. Instead, I think I want to see more of this defiance. In my presence. Perhaps even under my guidance." The weight of her words struck me. The Empire, the Council, the battles, all of it, seemed to fade in significance. What mattered was this unpredictable, intoxicating dance with the Queen herself. "I will not disappoint you, Your Majesty," I managed to say, though my voice was rough. Seraphine smiled, a glint of triumph in her emerald eyes. "Oh, Kale," she whispered, leaning closer again. "I don't expect you to. But Remember, defiance has its rewards, and sometimes it has its pleasures. I realized then that the Empire had not broken me. Instead, it had placed me in the hands of a woman who could challenge me in ways I had never imagined. And somehow, I found myself looking forward to every challenge, every test, every game she would devise. As the palace doors closed behind the guards and the throne room fell silent once more, I knew that nothing would ever be the same. I had tried to defy the Empire, and in return, the Queen had turned my trial into something far more thrilling, an unspoken, exhilarating flirtation that promised danger, excitement, and perhaps more than either of us had anticipated. And for the first time in my life, I didn't mind being caught in her game.